Predictions become more and more impossible as the week continues. We'll see which teams can disrupt expectations with our games today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NA LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we check in on the player of the game leaderboard, and Mark tries to spin a wheel until the timer reaches 0, and we jump into Champion Select. Let's start off the day by getting a reminder of where the teams rank. Currently, FlyQuest sits behind the trio in first at 6 and 5, while TSM in the group in fifth sits at 5 and 6, leaving Cloud9 and Clutch Gaming in ninth. But with every day this split, all that can change. So let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule presented by Jersey Mike's Subs. Game 1 has TSM hoping to pick up a win versus FlyQuest, with Smoothie facing off against his old squad in Game 4, Echo Fox versus Cloud9. During Game 3, Azea will be joined by Clutch's Seb Park and Team Liquid Steve in the NA LCS Lounge, where they'll cast their teams duking it out on Riot Games 2. If you're looking for a sub above during our games, order online at jerseymikes.com with the promo code JMNALCS to enter yourself into a sweepstakes for a trip to the summer finals and to pick up some in-game swag along the way. Now, yesterday, two teams entered Week 6 with some pretty dramatic changes. So let's get some quick first impressions, starting with Clutch Gaming.
Yeah, so Clutch Gaming was a team that was only 2/5 of what they started the split with. Remember, they subbed out Apollo and Hakuho for Piglet, who has been in the LCS for years, and also their new support Vulcan. But so much of the talk of Clutch's struggles was about Lyra in the jungle and how he was underperforming and how you put Moon in. So because of that, it allowed them to have an extra import slot, which I think made Clutch want to put in Piglet because of his LCS experience. But I still continue to question that motive because I feel like Apollo and Hakuho are so much of the way that team actually advances towards victory. And when you pull that out, you wonder how they're going to do stuff.
Right, and I think just based off the output of the changes, it looked like old Clutch before the changes. They still played an extremely long game. They have the longest average game time in the league already. And while you saw him Piglet's stats there, he probably played the laning phase a little bit more aggressively than Apollo would have. At the end of the day, they started getting dove and killed again, and it was a problem where they didn't have the support from their team. Febby wasn't down there helping defend it. You didn't have Moon down there, and after that, it largely looked like the same Clutch Gaming, which struggled to make any plays in the mid game.
Yeah, and here's the struggle with it as well is Hakuho was the playmaker of the team. And Seb Park specifically called out Vulcan in the tweet saying he's been performing very well in Academy and they wanted to give him a chance. But that team needs to have playmaking from the support position or from the jungle position. And if you're putting your new support on Tom Kench in his first game, he's not going to be able to make plays. And you're putting Moon on Trundle against Graves and a bunch of range champions, he's not going to be able to make plays. So they're putting literally everything on Febiven, who, while he can be a great team fighter, is not your initiator and never really has been. So it ended up being the longest game of the split, partially to do with the way 100 Thieves plays as well, but more so because I think Clutch Game just had no proactivity the entire game.
So there still just seems to be a lot of confusion as to why this change was made, you know, aside from the idea that Lyra might have been underperforming and Moon might do better. But to your point, they're not even giving these new guys the tools to prove that they can fix the problems Clutch has.
Right, and to be fair, it has been one game.
Yes,
like we said, they didn't really look worse than the old starting trio that they had. So there is that potential upside that still exists, like maybe a couple different picks, maybe a little bit more time gelling together. They can actually have a better 5-man, but the initial impression was bland.
Yeah, and I think it maybe speaks to me as a little bit of a desperation move. They are now tied for last place. They are playing Team Liquid today, a team that is in first place. They can be 4 and 8, and I think as the 4 and 6 trajectory from last week, they're thinking, well, we're going to be 4 and 8 anyway, so let's try something because this is our last chance.
Right. The matchup today no easier than yesterday, though, so they're really going to have to step up and put on a performance if they want to convince us that this is the right 5-man lineup to push Clutch Gaming further in the standings. Next up, Echo Fox. Much greater success for this squad yesterday after bringing in Lost and Smoothie to join DeMonte, Hooney, and Dardoch.
Complete opposite story. They instantly smashed their lanes. All three had winning matchups, and all three converted into substantial laning leads. And then Smoothie playing a bit of the Tom Kench on a team that is already full of playmakers. Kind of the opposite of the Clutch Gaming situation, is there to help follow up on plays and be able to save people when they get into too much trouble, which is something Echo Fox will do time and time again.
I thought Smoothie played great. This had all the makings of a normal Echo Fox game, where they go up 4,000 gold in the laning phase, then they fail a dive, it becomes close, and then 35 minutes later, we have 40 kills in the map.
Right.
But every time that was going to happen, Smoothie stopped them from making the mistake. They died 3 times that game.
Total.
That's their lowest death total of the entire summer split. Huni alone has died more than 3 times in 8 of the 11 games this split. So to say they looked a little different with Smoothie, I think is an understatement.
Yeah.
They looked to me so good in that game. I want to see them be able to maintain it because if they can, they're going to be a contender.
Impressions of Lost as well, just as he steps up to the LCS stage.
I think he seems to fit in very well with the overall mindset of the team of being a very aggressive playmaking team. In that series, he kited forward a number of times and was able to find a bunch of kills. And then on top of the fact that that's how he played in Academy
Chat, we need you for another 24 minutes.
No.
So
Two-man from here.
I'm not going to make it.
Like the Glory Days streams,
That's
you
right.
and I
Let's-
again.
We'll go back to that. All right, well, looking at the match that's coming up in that 23 minutes, what does it take for us to put FlyQuest in the conversation for one of the top teams in the split? Because there they sit near the top end of the standings, but for whatever reason, every time we talk about them, there feels to be this kind of this letdown feeling.
Well, so I was doing some digging, and it actually is the worst goal difference at 15 in the league. They're 1,000 behind. And when you're looking at a team that's battling for first place, you're looking at the first 15 minutes be very, very unimpressive for a team. And so it's a situation where there's a lot for this team to want to prove when they are, consistently battling other teams. It reminds us a lot of Clutch from last split when we were seeing them at the top of the standings, but they weren't getting convincing wins, and they were beating only teams below them and kinds of things. And I think the story of FlyQuest kind of mirrors that one this far in the season.
I mean, I think you keyed into something there, Jat. You let me know when you're ready to talk again. Otherwise,
I'll
I
do the
could
whole
go-
thing.
I was going to say, we can
Shut
go
my
ahead
mouth.
and
You can
forward.
continue. No, I would say as well, when you're trying to figure out if a team has really turned the corner, the record is a very important part of it. But you also have to look at the quality of the wins and the quality of the losses. And I feel like a lot of times when FlyQuest loses, they're getting blown out. And when they win, it's very close. So I want to see that switch. I don't want them to be undefeated. I'm not asking for that. But if they lose, I want it to be a close game. And if they win, I want them to blow someone out.
Okay.
Because I think they've had good drafts for the most part. They've clutched out some victories, which is a step in the right direction. But Keen needs to be more consistent in those losses, and they need to find a more reliable way to win.
I mean, you talk about clutching it out. Funnily enough, that just reminds me of the idea that Clutch as a team was very much in this position in spring, right? I mean, they made it all the way to the semifinals, game 5, but so often throughout the regular split last season, we were talking about how this squad we were kind of middling on. They don't necessarily feel like they're ever going to make a run to the finals or that they're going to win the entire split, yet here they are picking up some wins.
Yeah, and I mean, FlyQuest, I think they've had a couple higher quality wins than Clutch may have had in the previous split, whereas there was that line joke that we kept hammering into the ground a little bit. But I think the problem is they've actually looked worse in their losses than Clutch did, whereas they lost to a better team, whatever. Sometimes when FlyQuest loses, they just look like they had no hope at any chance.
All right, well, on the other side of this matchup, of course, we've got TSM, who's on the verge of another 0-2 weekend. If they do end 0-2 here, it'll be the most 0-2s this team has had in history for a split. So it's also hard here to kind of pinpoint exactly why things aren't working out for such a stellar squad of names.
Right, and I'm doing a little bit of reading between the lines, and based off what the own players on TSM are saying, other people who have been playing against them in scrims, everyone talks about how good they're doing and how they look like a strong team. Everyone's convinced they're a top team, and on stage we just don't see it. And it seems very similar to me to a situation that I was in Season 4 with Curse and Summer when I was working with them, and we had great scrim results. We would crush people in scrims. It wasn't close. And then we get on stage and we wouldn't be able to do anything. And we had a very, very reactive play style. And in scrims, people are playing looser for whatever reason. Maybe they're trying more stuff out. We're trying stuff too, but just the way our players played was to punish mistakes. And there's way more mistakes in scrims. You get these leads all the time consistently, and then it's easy to close out from there. And then when you get on stage, people play safer. They only go for the high percentage plays. You don't get those leads. And then you're trying to play a completely different game than you've really practiced all week in scrims.
Yeah, and I remember that because we're always saying, like, oh, Curse, we hear they're so good in scrims.
Yeah.
How did you ever fix that or break out of it at least a little bit?
Maybe a little bit, but it's really, really hard because, one, it's hard to break habits normally, even when you know they're bad habits. But this is a situation where you are constantly receiving positive feedback.
Right, with wins in scrims.
And it's hard to say what you're doing is wrong. Like, they did something dumb, so we punish them. Like, why would we not?
Right. Are you supposed to not punish them now in scrims?
Right,
just so
exactly.
that-
You get
right?
this weird situation where you're like, well, I have to fundamentally change the way we play the game, but we're constantly being shown that what we're doing is correct. And so we started doing things where we would pick like 5 engaged champions. Like every champion must have a go button in some sense. And we tried to like hyper overcorrect for it, but it was something we struggled with literally the entire season, and I don't think we ever fixed.
What's your diagnosis here?
Well, I do think that there is truth to what Mark is saying and the fact that TSM plays a fairly reactive macro game. But I would say that for many TSM splits in the past, not the 2016 summer split where they were very proactive with double lift and all the early game stuff, but basically since then, so for the last 2 years, they have been able to win lane and then play reactively from an advantage. And the other teams are almost forced into fighting TSM because Bjergsen always had the best laning stats in the league, and Hansser was consistently pressuring turrets, and Doublelift and Biofrost were really good in their 2v2 matchups. So even if they're only reacting to other teams, the other teams are forced to doing something because TSM is winning lanes.
Yeah, we're watching them build advantages in all 3 lanes. Holy crap, we got to do something about that.
Yeah.
TSM can now respond reactively. But to your point,
But they're not winning lanes.
they're not winning lanes anymore.
So they don't necessarily have a proactive macro game built up, and they're not winning lanes. So how do they actually win? This, I think, is one of the big cores of their
you
problem.
draft 5 engaged champions.
Or draft stronger lanes, right?
Okay.
Because they need to get the ball rolling somehow. And that used to be through winning lanes.
All right, well, there you have it. We'll see how that matchup pans out later on, but for now, we're stepping away. When we return, we bring back the Wheel of Misfortune and use the audience to help us through some Jat stats. As we go to break, though, let's listen into this week's mic check, which tunes into the intense calls from last week's clash between FlyQuest and 100 Thieves.
So quiet today. We're just in their zone practicing, man. Alright, let's see what funnel they bring out today.
Okay, it's a good round.
This is...
It happened.
Yeah. Afram was laughing.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Good luck, have fun, guys.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I can cancel. It's
Just flash right.
yeah. Here's splash. I'm going first. I'm going first. I'm going first. This guy's dead.
Nice. Let's focus.
Oriana.
Hitting tunnel.
Hitting Ori.
Nice. Go to
Have anything?
I have Q3, 2, 1.
Nice.
Nice.
No,
Nice.
I'm not sure.
Go bro, go bro,
I'm
go
looking
bro.
at you guys. I'm looking at you guys. Versus right here. He has Versus.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna take it.
Okay.
Go.
Nice try.
Slowly.
Nice.
Verse ulti, we have Kindred ulti, we're fine. We can go direct now too, I think.
I got it for free already.
Okay.
I'm calling mid.
I still don't show that now.
She's dead.
Nice.
Nice.
Where's the flash? Watch the turn.
Going left. Okay, nice. We're okay, we're out. Good job. Go this way.
We're doing it.
Come.
We can do it.
We're going on Versus.
Okay. Come. No pass on bears.
Careful.
Ori out.
I can go.
I'm on HP.
Yeah, you're going hard.
Nice.
Guys,
Hit alley. Look, nice. Hit alley. Watch our base.
They're going on Mundo.
Yeah.
We go.
I've ulti for
They're
you.
back.
I'll be there 10 seconds.
Okay, they're coming.
If you guys come, I can flash.
Versus.
Flash.
Go forward. I'm on Mundo.
I'm going for alley.
I marked him. Yo, count the rise damage. Blocking. I'm on alley. Mundo. Window and back. Don't get greedy. Back. Defend.
Yeah, I'm
We
going.
get pillar. Look, alley. We can TP. Phantom, man.
Yeah.
Back down.
Pinch two. Go.
Let's clear.
I'm gonna auto going to the kick. Go. Pull it.
They're on Nexus right now.
Hit.
We won. I think we won.
Did we win?
Who won? FlyQuest, they roll down the gauntlet and they win!
Welcome back to the NA LCS Countdown. We've made our way out to the battle arena. We got some very loud and excited fans here with us today. We're going to kick off this second half of the countdown with my least favorite segment of all time, Jat Stats. So Jat, here you go. Take it away, my friend.
I'm excited for this.
We don't get paid enough to sing these.
What is free labor?
What are you doing?
That's beautiful. I
don't
love it.
make the jingles.
Come on, man. Pay your artists
Thank-
more.
thank you very
Come
much.
on.
Set up a GoFundMe for them. First question, actually,
All right.
is going to be a multiple choice. We did one of these Jazz Chats last year. It's essentially the top KDA games by top laners. You're matching the top laner to the KDA they had in the game. So these are 3 of the top laners with the best KDA, and like who had each KDA in the game. These
They're
are the
like
top
not
3
even-
KDA
I
games.
feel like 18.0 is a bait for Someday because of how good Someday's playing, but just to recognize his MVP-like performance, I'm still gonna go with it.
Okay, but you need to do all 3. So like,
Okay.
where are you going to put the lines?
All right, so I'm going Someday to 18.
Yeah.
I'm going Impact to 15, and I'm going Hanser to 15.5.
I'll
Okay.
do the same, but I'll swap Impact and Hanser. So
Okay.
just straight across the board.
Oh, you think
You're
they're all
both
lined
wrong.
up?
Oh.
They're all Someday.
What is this
That
one?
was so unfair!
I mean, it's a possible answer, right?
That was
3 KDA
ridiculous.
games for Someday.
Oh, come on.
I feel like these Jazz Stats
You
are
didn't
going
know
down.
that was
Asterisk
possible.
next
Well,
to
I was
that
gonna be
one
like,
at
what's-
the end of the day today.
Okay,
What the heck?
I got another top laner stat.
They go better or worse from here?
From a laning phase perspective.
Someday for all of them.
Yeah, well, this is a negative one. Which top
Oh.
laner who's played all of the games has the lowest CSD at 10?
Flame, no, Flame might be it because he loses.
Might.
a
Played all the
lot of
games.
matchups.
Might be solo potentially as well. He's played all the
Ooh,
games.
that's another good one. I'll go
Uh,
Flame. I'll go Flame.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm trying to think who else it could be. I'll go solo.
We were talking about it earlier in Countdown, weak laning phase for TSM. Hanser.
Hanser?
Whoa!
Negative
Wow.
5.4 CSD at 10. It gets better between 15 and 20, but that's a big surprise.
The bait too is we ran all his stats yesterday, and a lot of them were really, really good.
Yeah, not
we
CSD
didn't
at
put
10.
CSD at 10 on there apparently.
Yeah, all right. Final
right.
question. This one, limited choices. Which summoner spell has been used more in the LCS this split? D or F?
D.
Okay,
Instant pick
I'm
D.
gonna ask for some help here from the audience. All right, so if you guys,
Why
if you
D?
guys,
I'll
we're
explain.
gonna-
I don't want to help James.
Be quiet.
I need to win.
Be quiet. I'm talking to the audience. Okay, thank you. All right, so if you think it's D, we're gonna do it by volume here. So get loud for this. All right, if you think the answer is D, go. All right. Okay. All right. Now how about F? Well, I'm gonna go with F then because that's what the audience thinks.
It is D. So,
All right, here's
good job, Mark.
Get out.
Let me explain.
All
The
of
reason
you.
is more people put Flash on F, and that's a summoner that
That you hold on to more.
hold on to more
Okay.
often than your D combat summoner, teleport, and these kinds of things.
Yeah,
All
and
right,
the
fair
big
enough.
reason for
I
this,
put Flash on D though. 'Cause that's
is-
the right
Well, you're
key to
dumb.
put it on.
prior to Blabber summoning for Svenskeren, 6 of the 10 LCS junglers had Smite on D. Now Blabber has Smite on F, so it's 5 and 5. But
Woo!
it's
That's the correct way to do
Ah.
it. Smite on F, Flash on
All right,
D.
that'll
All
do it for
right,
best
chat stats. I'm gonna say that was an incredibly unfair version.
Yeah,
of
these
Jazz
are
Stats,
more
especially
unique.
that first
We'll call
one.
them
But thank you
unique
so
Jazz
much.
stats.
All right, next up, we're gonna hit up the Wheel of Misfortune as we debuted it yesterday. Again, a quick reminder: we got 6 topics on the wheel. We're gonna spin it, and then I'm gonna charge one of these guys to kind of talk or rant about that topic. Mark, you're up first. So you had
God.
some trouble
You
spinning
didn't
the
know how
wheel
to- I got it,
yesterday.
I got it for
Maybe
you.
Jack can help
You
you,
ready?
out. Ready?
I'm gonna wiggle it, Get it loose.
Woo!
There we go. Technology.
Can we
What's it
animate
gonna be,
the
baby?
wheel to spin my way?
What's it gonna be? All right, NA stronger. This is post Rift Rivals, so I know we don't have the full statement on the
Yeah.
wheel, but I need you to talk about whether or not NA is stronger.
Oh,
after
it's whether or not I don't have to convince you that they're stronger.
No, whether or not. I want your feelings on whether or not NA is stronger, will get stronger as a result of Rift Rivals. What are your feelings?
I feel like it was a very much needed butt kicking a little bit, and I think it was a weird one where 100 Thieves had some new players in there, and there was some experimentation going on. But I think we got punished for not adapting as much as Europe had. So the Heimer pick really showed that. The Aatrox pick showed that. They were better at funnel than us, and I think they did a good job of showing that like if the meta is going to change, you need to change with it. Because if you just stand by and let the meta go past you, when you play teams who didn't do that, you will lose. And I think Golden Guardians is a great domestic example of that as one of the teams that really adapted to everything that was new. The Talon mid Smite as well.
So with these last 2 weeks of play, do you feel like NA is actually moving in the right direction now?
It's starting to feel like it. The problem that makes it feel awkward is that a lot of the patches are kind of rolling back some of those new strategies we were seeing. So funnel being down, Smite mid being down. So it feels like some of the teams who did not
You
adapt
missed your chance.
might have been rewarded, but I hope they learned the lesson, which is when you go into Worlds, if something is new, just learn it.
You got to learn it. All right, Jat, you're up next. Go ahead and spin the wheel.
I get to spin it again.
Oh, Never mind.
Mark, do you want to try to spin it?
I'll try spinning
it's
it.
just
All right.
resetting. It's
The
reloading.
way it works is it goes one direction really quickly, and then you got to spin
Well,
it the
it
other
goes
way.
that way
All right,
every
You
time.
can
Mark,
see it.
we're
Are you
running.
ready?
Come on,
ready?
spin the wheel.
Wiggle it a little bit. Hey!
Close enough. I have to throw it up.
Yeah.
My crowd appreciated it.
They're a very supportive crowd today.
TSM
All right,
postseason, what does this mean?
TSM's postseason. So I think we want to talk about, do they have a postseason, their opportunity or the chances
Okay.
of making it to the postseason, and maybe your faith in how they'll perform if they get there.
So you got to remember, because they finished 5th, 6th, and only have 10 championship points, if they miss the postseason, they also miss Worlds entirely. I think that TSM can make the postseason. They were 5 and 6. If they win today, they will be 6 and 6. That puts them in contention. I still can't imagine the experience on this roster not being able to figure it out by the end of its split. It's taken way longer than anyone would have expected, and they are definitely much worse than people would have expected as well. But there are 6 out of 10 teams that make the postseason, and I think TSM can be one of those teams.
Okay, but I mean, we already talked a little bit about what we want to see from them, given the fact that their laners aren't as strong as they were before. You think that all 3 lanes across the board have that ability?
I think they've shown it in the past. I think in the short term, TSM needs to focus on getting Bjergsen in that position, because that's always been the guy to shine for that team. In the past, he said, well, I'm going to focus less on lane so I can roam.
Okay.
Now he's focusing less on lane and he's not roaming. So get back to your lane focus. He's been capable of doing it before. I think that's how TSM gets there.
TSM fans, there is hope, as Jat puts it. Next up, we got predictions. Before we get to your guys' predictions, we did source the fans here in attendance today for who they thought was going to come out with victories. So we're going to look those right now.
Joel here, Mark and Jat were having a tough time doing their job, so we're going to get some audience members to help them out. FlyQuest or TSM?
I think FlyQuest will take today's game because throughout the season, I think Flame has been playing better and better, and Hunter is kind of underperforming recently.
Team Liquid or Clutch Gaming? So we got 100 Thieves and we got CLG. Who do you think?
This one's hard, but I think 100 Thieves will win. Just because I like Afromu and yeah.
Cloud9 or Fox? Who do you think?
I gotta go with my boys Cloud9. They're sitting in last place right now. They're looking to push for playoffs. Every game counts and looking for a big one today.
Did they pay you to say that? Come on, we're on the clock.
That's true. Clutch Gaming, if it's the long game, yeah, I feel like Febivin might be able to pull it off, but Team Liquid's probably got it.
Optic or Golden Guardians?
I really like both these teams. They're both really good. I think Optic has been performing better lately, so I think we'll have to go with Optic there.
You sure you don't want to go with Golden Guardians?
No.
I don't know how you did it, dude, but good job on that kid. We're done with these guys. Let's go.
Thank you very much, Joel. Thank you to you guys for giving us your fan predictions. Let's go ahead and see how those compare to what Mark and Jat have for the day. You both went with TSM. You only differ in the second game of the day, splitting CLG 100 Thieves. But the fans have a lot more faith in FlyQuest and C9 than you guys do.
That's a little surprising, the FlyQuest one.
So the FlyQuest versus TSM one, I think, is one of the closest matchups of the day. Only one game separates them in the standings, and TSM hasn't looked proactive lately. And even though FlyQuest has won a lot of those games, Mark mentioned earlier in the countdown, they have the lowest early game gold totals of any team. Their wins haven't been that convincing. Their losses have been blowouts. So if you're expecting a team to kind of fall back, it would be FlyQuest.
CLG 100 Thieves.
Yeah, this is one where I'm surprised to see Jack going with CLG because he was just bemoaning them at the end of last night and how they are on a 3-game loss streak. They're not looking very good. It feels like...
How many times do we have to go through this with you, Jat? When you vote for CLG...
It's hot. Don't touch it.
Yeah, right?
You're going to get burned.
This is how I'm catching up to Mark, actually, is by predicting CLG games correctly. So I need to continue to be different. And this is more, actually... CLG has been struggling lately, but CLG has actually been pretty decent at playing standard, in even going back to last split when they try to make their runs. And that's where 100 Thieves hadn't been playing well earlier on in the split, and they got 4 of their wins from Funnel. Yes, they won a 55-minute game yesterday against Clutch, who, by the way, is now in last place. That doesn't make 100 Thieves, to me, a really powerful 7-4 team, which is why I think CLG can take it.
Gotcha. I'm sorry I'm going to cut you off before you even start speaking because we got 1:30 on the clock before game 1, so I want to talk about that game 1. You both predicted TSM, but I want win conditions for both teams, starting with you, Jat, TSM.
All right, so my TSM win condition is going to be getting a counter pick for Bjergsen and then playing reactive macro. It's actually the way TSM
So do all the
used to
things
win.
that
It's
we
how they
don't
used to win.
that we didn't like that they do at the beginning of the show.
Right, I think reactive macro can work against FlyQuest if they have an early game lead, which I think they can get from counterpicking
Okay,
mid.
so that's the difference is they need that early game lead. What's the response for FlyQuest?
Don't let Keen fall behind is the biggest one. Get him a comfort pick. He's a player who can be a little streaky. Oriana's very strong in the meta right now. That's one of his best champions. And if you look at the FlyQuest losses, in almost all of them, it's some time when Keen kind of gets obliterated. We've seen them win when Flame has a bad game, Santorin can have a bad game, but it feels like as soon as Keen does, things fall around them and they cannot find the advantages that they find in the mid to late game through shot calling.
All right, there you have it. That's enough from us. Time to watch some League of Legends, ladies and gentlemen. Throwing it up to the casters for the call.